What's up everybody, Cloudchord here for Open Channels. Today we're going to talk about warping. What the fuck is warping? Let's check out these definitions. What is warping? Warping allows you to change the speed of the sample playback independently of the pitch. Warping allows you to time stretch audio so it stays in sync with the chosen tempo. Basically, like in the 1900s when everything was black and white and we were touring by horse and buggy, if you had a beat and you sped it up, it got higher in pitch, and if you slowed it down, it got lower in pitch. Warping allows us to have more control of that. So today I want to talk about a handful of very important things that I think you should know about warping, how to auto warp, how to warp groups of tracks at one time, and then a couple fun just sound design tricks. Also note that we have a free lesson download today so you can follow along at home with everything that I'm about to do. Quick PSA, this July 12th through 14th, 2024, I will be giving an Ableton Live retreat in upstate New York in Wappingers Falls at Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, which is Alex Gray's spot. So if you're looking for a 3-day transformative and transcendental experience with Ableton Live and being around the energy of the art of Alex Gray on his stomping grounds, please join us for Behind the Beats. We'll talk about producing, we'll talk about performing, we'll talk about your spiritual goals and everything in between. There is a link below in the description for more details. Okay, so I have a blank session and I added the warping lesson folder to my desktop, and then you can just add a folder in your places down here. Boom, you open it up. So now it's in your places and you can see these 6 MP3s so you can follow along at home, okay? So that was the point of this lesson, is to give you guys something where you could go tit for tat with me and make some new discoveries, okay? Okay, go to your preferences, Command, comma, or Control, comma, if you're a PC user, and go to your Record Warp Launch tab. Now put Loop Warp Short Samples on Auto. If we hold over the definition of it, this sets the default loop and warp properties of newly created short samples. When auto is chosen, Live makes its own guess at which settings make the most sense for the new sample. So here's the interesting thing. If it's the first sample you're bringing in, the BPM will change accordingly to the auto warp and what Ableton thinks the BPM of this clip is. So let's bring in this house beat. So we can hear it there. Let's just bring it in. Pro tip, if you drag an audio clip on top of a blank MIDI clip just in session view, it turns it into an audio track. Okay, so let's see. So you can look above, it changed our BPM from 120 to 120.51. And I wanted to give you some realistic examples to help you in the real world. Look, there's some dead space here before this clip. So it sounds good on its own. But once I add in the metronome, it's not totally on. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is check this out. Go to this first transient and right click and do set 1-1 here. Now our sample is going to play right from there. Now let's go to beat 3 and take that transient, double click it and make it a warp marker. Now drag it to 3. We could have done earlier ones, but I tend to warp in bigger chunks of time because it will take care of most of the stuff in between. So let's do beat 4. And I'm going to go over here. Let's make sure our clip starts at 1. And our length is 4 for our loop. Now let's play it with the metronome and check our math. Gets a little weird at the end, so we got to make sure This last one goes all the way to beat 4, and this goes to the 4 and. So you can see it gets a little bit weird at the end, but that's okay because this clip is just really a 2-bar loop. So now we can drag our looper all the way to the beginning of 3 and just make it a 2-bar loop, and it will warp perfectly. And like I said earlier in this episode, the great thing about warping is we can change BPMs without any pitch difference. Now let's look at these warping algorithms. So beats is normally what you should stay on for your beats. The further you get away from the original BPM, the more you're going to want to use Complex Pro. Check this out. We've still got some weirdness there, but it's not nearly as artifacty as when we're on beats. This is a fun thing you can do in Beats mode. If we go down here with this loop mode, the default is back and forth to reset the transients. That's how I understand it. Let's do it forward only. Now it starts gating it. And what if we change the rhythms here? Let's go to 32. How about 1 bar? Or let's do half. Here's one more thing you can do. Let's go back to transients, and now we're going to take this number here. Sets the duration of the volume fade. Shorter times can be used to apply rhythmic gating effects. That's pretty cool, right? All right, let's do another beat here. How about hip hop beats? So, since I have auto warp on, it's telling me it's about 94. I know that it's actually 95, so you can go down in here, and before you do anything with your warp markers, type in 95, and it will make some adjustments. All right, now turn on your metronome, and let's see how the math holds up. Also, change your clock to 95. I think it's good, but we need to change our 1-1. So let's go here to the first transient, right click on it, set 1-1 here. Let's hear it now. So this one's good. I think I made this beat slightly off the grid at points. It's not perfectly on. So this is a judgment call of you, the creative artist. Do you want all of these transients to perfectly be on the grid, or do you want them to have a little bit of give and take? So here's another fun thing you could do with warping. Mess with your pitch. I love doing this on beats. How about we just go over here? Let's do -6. That's fun. Another Cloudchord trick. Let's go into Envelope tab. I'm on Live 11. You can do this in Live 12 too. Let's go over here to Envelopes. We're going to do Clip, and then you want Transpose selected. And now, how about at the end of the clip, it's going to slowly go down like that. Normal, normal, and here we go. That's pretty fun. And then we could have gone right back maybe to 0 right here. And we're back. Now let's drag in one more thing, this Keep On Moving acapella. I could tell you right now that the BPM of this is 125, so type that in. So here's another example of we have all this space here, right? So let's go to this first transient marker, right click, set 1 here, and let's see how it sounds. Okay, it sounds kind of artifacty because I'm not at the right tempo up top. Let's go to 125. That's fun, right? Okay, how about reverse this clip down here with this reverse button? One more thing. I initially noted that back in the olden days of the 1900s, when you sped something up, it increased in pitch. If we go to repitch mode, it will do that. So how about if we put this at 150? Fun. Experiment with this all over the place. How does it sound at 85? In summary so far, Ableton Auto Warp will change the BPM on the first clip you import. Remember to set your 1 here if there's a little bit of space. Beats is good for warping at the original BPM of something. Most people use complex for anything outside of that. And also remember, when you're in beats mode, to mess with things down here in this transients area to get some super cool artifacts. Okay, we're gonna do one more thing today. I'm gonna show you how to warp multiple clips at one time. So I want to mention that the reason why I chose those last 3 clips, the house beat, the hip hop beat, and the acapella, is because they aren't like your just real cut and dry splice sample pack loops. You know, those, when you go to splice or something, they almost always start on the 1 and they make it really easy for you and everything is hyper quantized. But there's some really great stuff out there. For example, if you go to the Counts drum packs, a lot of them have space at the top. And so it's good to have those warping editing chops to be able to navigate that terrain and make really great art out of less obvious audio loops. Okay, now we're gonna look at Bustin' Loose by Chuck Brown. Okay, so what we're gonna do is shift click so we can get all 3 of these Bustin' Loose MP3s. We're gonna drag it in, and I want them to drag into 3 different tracks, so I'm gonna hold down the command key. Look at that, so they just go to their own individual track. And now we're going to play it, and I'm gonna tap the tempo. So it's about 110. Note, you need to do tap tempo inside session. It won't work in arrangement. Your timeline will keep shrinking and expanding depending on what you're tapping. So don't try doing tap tempo inside arrangement. It's a moving target and you'll get very frustrated. The internet also tells me that this is around 111 for the BPM. So we're somewhere between 110 and 112. I'm gonna say 110. Okay, and now I'm going to drag these over to arrangement. Okay, so another issue here, we've got dead space at the front, right? So here's what I like to do. Couple steps here. I'm going to take this off of grid mode, which is Command 4. So now you see the off. And I'm going to select all these together, and I'm going to find the downbeat. I believe it's right here. Cool, so they all start on the downbeat right now. Now I'm going to turn back on the grid. I'm going to bring these all to a downbeat. Great. And now what we can do is we can link these tracks so that they will all warp together. I have all 3 selected. I'm going to right click and I'm going to link the tracks. Okay. Now I'm going to warp them. And so my BPM is at 110, so it's going to warp them at 110. Let's see how it does. Let's turn on the metronome, see how it lines up. Ish, right? Truth be told, I tried this at a couple other tempos and I don't think they played to a metronome. So Here's what I like to do when I'm warping stems. I link them all together and then I warp the drums because everything else will warp with it. Drums are the easiest, they're the most clear transients. So watch this. I'm gonna go into measure 5 and there's our kick drum. Let's go a little bit forward. There's our kick drum for measure 8. Or actually, let me do measure 9. Like I said earlier, I like to do bigger amounts. How about measure 13? There's our kick drum. Measure 17, there's our kick drum. Let's see how it sounds.
Keep what you got until you get what you need, y'all.
So you can see clearly these guys didn't play to a click, which is what makes this song great. So you can go in and warp various amounts. So check this out. I'm doing just the drums now. If we click on the instrumental, it's creating all the same warp markers. So this will save you so much time when you're trying to do remixes, y'all. And truth be told, I just bought the FLAC file of this tune and I uploaded it into an AI website on Google and it gave me FLAC file versions of these stems. They're not perfect, but it's pretty great. And I'm not really planning on using the drums on their own anyways. I really want the music and the acapellas. Let's skip forward a little bit, see how this sounds.
Keep what you got until you get what you need, y'all. Give a lot just to get what you need sometimes, y'all.
One more thing I want to mention about warping. We can warp in between 2 warp markers and it will only affect things in between there, right? But if I warp here, there's no warp markers after it, it's going to affect everything after that. So just keep that in mind as a workflow. That's why I like to do the big signposts in the beginning, like measure 1, measure 9, measure 17, thinking in like bars of 8. Let's skip forward here a little bit more.
I feel like busting loose.
So you can see it's off later on. See, I screwed up. That is not the downbeat.
Give me the bridge now. I feel like busting loose.
So I think that might be an anticipation.
Feel like busting loose. Busting loose. Give me the bridge now. I feel like busting loose. Busting loose now. In the evening.
All right, I'm going to change to complex mode.
Keep what you got until you get what you need, y'all.
Sounded pretty good.
You got to give a lot just to get what you need sometimes, y'all. Give me the bridge now. I feel like busting loose. Busting loose. Give me the bridge now. I feel like busting loose. Busting loose now. Busting loose in the evening.
One more thing to mention, since these are all linked, you can change all their volumes at once, and you can change all their pitches at once.
Feel like busting loose. Busting loose.
You can change their warping algorithms all at once. Let's do some tricks. That's so weird, right?
I feel like busting loose. Busting loose. Give me the bridge now.
Anyways, have fun with this, y'all. I hope I moved slowly enough for this to make sense. Couple key takeaways. Auto warp short samples in your preferences. Set 1-1 here will shave off the beginning of the file. Mess with the beats algorithm and the different rhythmic preservations versus transients. Inside envelopes, you can do clip transposition and also mess with repitch mode on various things. I will say that live, I work exclusively in complex mode. I know some people are very snobby about that. I feel like you get 75 to 7,500 people in a room and stuff is echoing around everywhere and nobody can tell whether it's beats mode or complex mode. And I also like to change the BPMs of my songs. Sometimes I speed them up, sometimes I slow them down, depends where I'm coming from, depends where I'm going. So enjoy this knowledge, drop me a comment, let me know what you think, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Peace.